Now, look, boys, as I said, thank you. I love talking to people. I mean, I love talking to people about football, of course, but I love talking about people outside of football and what they do. And now, Simon, how did you get, like, it's you really ridiculously long time, 25 years involved in radio. How did you get into that?
It all goes back to, if you want the longer story, it all goes back to my uncle, who was a man.
Look, please, a long story. We're here for another 2 months. You know that.
It goes back to my uncle, who was a man named Jeff Cork. Now, most people sort of wouldn't remember his name, but he was the first man on television in Victoria when TV started in 1956. And he was Graham Kennedy's original sidekick before Bert moved across from Channel 7. And he became Corky, King of the Kids, all that sort of thing. But he had a very big radio and television career in the 1950s into the 60s, and until he had a falling out with Graham Kennedy and it all fell apart. But he used to sit at home and when we had family gatherings and stuff, he had this beautiful voice. And he used to tell stories about when he was managing a radio station, and the midnight to dawn announcer or the late night announcer would be drunk as a skunk, and he'd have to go down to the studio in his dressing gown, kick the announcer out, and finish the shift himself. And I thought, that's the industry I want to work in.
Which side of that?
Well, both, whichever way you can get in. But he passed away, sadly. He was always dead against the idea of me going into radio because, as you know, media it's just such a cutthroat industry. Yes. And he said, no, you get a real job and just don't even consider it. But when he passed away, Bert Newton was at the funeral, and so was Philip Brady. And yes. And my auntie had pointed out Philip Brady. This was about 1992, I think, 1993 maybe. And my auntie pointed out Phil and said, "Oh, that's Philip Brady. He's doing the 3AW nighttime show with Bruce Mansfield, who I knew as Uncle Roy." And she said, "You should go and have a chat to him." And so I had a quick chat with Phil, and it was lovely. But then I sent him a letter, or a fax it might have been. I sent him a fax to say, "Would you mind if I came in and watched you and Bruce one night?" And Phil, and a week later, I hadn't heard back. And I thought, oh, well, forget that. He's not interested, doesn't care. And then I was at work at the Commonwealth Bank. And Phil sent a second fax saying, "Oh, perhaps you didn't get my first fax. You'd be more than welcome." So I went in one Tuesday night and I was terrified, but I just loved it. There's Uncle Roy himself and Philip Brady, both legends, doing this show and being very funny. And the producer, a lady named Paige McGinley, said that I was welcome back any time. And Phil said, "Oh, anytime you want to come in, buddy." So for 2 years, I'd go in every Tuesday night and just hang out. And then I started, because I'd grown up with Uncle Roy's humour, Bruce Mansfield's humour. Yes. So I recognised a lot of the style of what they did. So I started saying, "Oh, Bruce should say this, Phil should say this." And Paige said, "There's an intercom button there. Feed them the line. Just when you think it's right, just feed them a line." So I did, and Bruce and Phil had come out and said, "Oh, very funny joke there," and I'm in heaven. And eventually they went through 3 producers in that time because Nights was always a stepping stone. And it was, and when the third producer left, Rowena, her name was, when she was leaving, Phil said, "Go and see Steve Price and see if you can get the job." So I made an appointment, went and saw him. Price, he sat there, Steve Price, grumpy little thing as he is, he sat there. "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to work with Bruce and Phil." And he said, no, everyone sees that as the stepping stone. Is it the news and current affairs? Do you want to, more fun stuff? What exactly are you looking for? What do you want to do in radio? And I said, "Well, no, actually, I really want to work with Bruce and Phil." And he said, "All right, well, I'm sick of having to interview people for this job every 8 months or so. So, yeah, job's yours."
And for 25 years.
And then, 25 years later, I'm still sort of there.
That's fantastic.